Knowledge born, united front. What you want, what you want, what you want.
To the Knowledge Radio.
We in here. What you got? Dot.
Work hard as a slave to one day be your savior. The wave unwavering. This is a labor of love. Rise with a purpose every day. Invigorated. If we were on TV, we'd be 10 times syndicated. If we waited for validation, a paycheck or accolades, we'd be starved, already lost or ran away. But when you're square, solid, and you circle too, you don't need a place for silence. The concept is conquered through media, not areas of people activity. A mix that don't lose ethnicity, tightness that don't lose elasticity. Explicitly, this isn't where we give the novice regard. Nah, this is where knowledge is born. Last time that I checked, I'm undefeated. Deliver edicts, can't resist when the gods build and manifest freedom. When lines get crossed, they may push a loss, cause they get handed a check. We kick a can and cancel your cancerous gestures. A prophet vision, precision, the prescription for the sickness is to inoculate your fate with the winning. Arrogant beginnings turn to humble endings. And US with KBA is a win-win. 1K, 1K.
All right. Peace and black power, family. Welcome to another episode of Do Knowledge Radio. Place for Knowledge is Born. This is your host, Knowledge Born a Lot, and we are extremely honored in this dispensation of time to have with us a prolific mind, an ancestral conduit, a warrior, a healer, a teacher, a father, and a shining example of what it means to be an African man. So let me take this moment to welcome to the platform this divine ancestral conduit here with a prelude to a dynamic, empowering insurrection message from our ancestors. The man, the myth, the legend, my brother, the warrior comrade, Floyd Williams. Welcome to the platform.
Black power, black love, and had a pool, a Lafia, Uncle just a neb to everybody that's out there, and definitely much love to you, brother. Knowledge born and law God, appreciate it, and yeah, and definitely foremost just praise, and thanksgiving, to the Neteru, to the creatress, and as well as to our sheps, our ancestors, to the Grady Goons, who showed us that we do, come upon and stand on as well. So definitely delighted to be here. We've been knowing each other, for years, and I've never been on Do the Knowledge Radio. But I'm here today because I definitely feel compelled, and summoned to really just share now more than ever, as I have, never before, and usually, I just consider myself to be just a worker. It's all about the work. The work for me has always been, the glory, and the edification, and the praise, and the fuel, for me. I'm saying? The work is enough for me. No problem with not being in the front, not being in the forefront, not being, being in the back. In order to lead or be a leader, good leaders have to be able to follow. Have to be able to follow, have to be able to listen, as well, and not just listen, but proactively listening, actively listening, But for me, it just always been about the work. I ain't never been in pursuit of no name, no fame, or no renown. It's just only thing that matters to me is victory, is African glory, the wellness, and the health and the life of the collective, you know, the life of the collective, and winning survival. Nothing else is that's foremost. That's foremost. And no matter what it is that I do or where it is I'm at within my person, I'm never separated or view myself differently from the body. It don't matter if I got a $1 or I got $1 million. My destiny and fate is tied up with the people. We both have the same price and the same bounty over our head. So, you know, it just is what it is. It's no different. My demise and death, you know, the value and worth of my life is no different. So no matter what it is that I'm at, I'm going to remain the same, fully focused, you know, fully focused. You know, this is all about victory and the progeny and the offspring, you know, and the fruition of the vision of the ancestors. That's all it's about. The fruition of the vision of the ancestors over here.
So let's back up a little bit and, you know, what led you to write? I know you gave us, you know, 4 dynamic books, you know, ancestral messages encoded in script. You know, what motivated you to begin to write and write in a particular style and also the subject matter in which you touched on?
Man, what moved me to write is simply just the people. Simply just the people. Just nothing but a will and desire of wanting to share everything that I do. I categorize it and look at it as nothing more than just a labor of love. And myself, my life ain't nothing but a symbol. It's not mine. My life is only a symbol. It's not mine and it doesn't belong to me. And so dealing with what we identify as knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, I know that I'm nothing but a fiduciary. You know, I'm just a trustee. You know, it's not mine. It's to be given. It's to be shared. I don't have ownership of it. It's to be disseminated. You know what I'm saying? It's for the people. So that's what made me want to write, was just none other than wanting to share, wanting to make a lasting contribution and impact upon the heart, minds, and souls, you know, of the people. And I view writing as one of the best ways to actually make a sound contribution, to leave something that the people can inherit, as well as writing is one of the means of immortalization, right? So that was a big attraction to me. And then, you know, coming into the knowledge, the science, or the light, you know, especially with dealing with I'm not even gonna, especially with dealing with I guess I can say comedic science. You know, when we deal with comedic science, the most important person behind, you know, the pharaoh is the sesh. You know, the sesh is identified as the scribe. And so me wanting to write is that I'm understanding that the field is mental. It's all about the mind. And as well as with me being able to have the mental faculty, it's all about the scholarship. It's all about the black and white, and it's all about us telling our story. And so that was very important, you know, and key to me, and really choosing to write. And one of the early people early on that had really motivated me and encouraged me to write, and then revealed my full potential to myself that I could write, that I could do this too, was when I had read Brother Akil book, From Niggas to Gods. When I read From Niggas to God, that right there really had solidified within my being that this is what I can do, you know, because the book was written. The book is very pregnant with knowledge, but yet it's written. He wrote the book damn near in everyday language so that the people can understand it. And he was not trying to fit into any other, you know, mold or standard, you know, of European, I guess we'll say, outlines of writing, you know. So that right there definitely was a great sign, you know, for me, and encouragement that I could write and that I should be, you know, doing this.
So kind of take us through the, you know, the book's process. You see what I'm saying? From conceptualization to manifestation to print. Like, you know, where are you in those stages? You see what I'm saying? Like, kind of give us a little backstory on that actual process, because you know you did it 4 times.
Okay, now listen. When I write, many people use the word, you know, author. I really don't use that word applied to myself. You know, my writing process is very natural. You know, it's very fluent. You know, and so actually my writing process, I don't really even call it writing. I call it transcribing. I call it transcribing. And the reason why I call it transcribing is because the things that I'm putting on the paper, I'm only transferring the pages from my heart to the page, and everything already has been written, you know, inside of there, so to say. When I write, I don't write until I want to write, until I know it's time for me to write. So in dealing with the writing process, it just comes very fluently for me, because articulating and expressing myself is something that is natural for me. You know, it just comes natural for me. And then with me being developing a love and a passion for reading and things like that, and just having a huge voracious hunger for it, it's just like almost like a repository. And it's, and all I done is just spend most of my time in deep rumination and contemplation, thinking over the knowledge, thinking over all that I observed since I've been outside of the womb. So it's nothing for me to write. You know, it just comes out easy. I call it transcribing. One of my books, the book itself, A Thesis on Energy, How I Interrelate, I wrote that book in 2 days. You know, the Holy Black Papyrus, I wrote that book in probably like a month. You know, I wrote The Origin of Racism in probably like 4 to 6 months. You know, the longest I ever spent writing on a book was my first book, Unspoken Truth, and probably about 6 months to 9 months, you know, writing that. So when I write non-stop until I feel that I am, empty. You know, it's a non-stop process. You know, it's how I write when I'm writing something. And so usually when I do write and I'm composing my book, the first thing I do is I write it down on paper. I'm very traditional. You know, I'm very traditional in my approach. You know, so I write everything out by hand. But then once I get done writing, you know, the body that I'm dealing with, then I come back behind it and I give it an appropriate title that I'm leaning towards, you know. And from there, you know, the table of contents and whatnot. But that's how I write. And just to get a little bit more personal, you know, about, you know, into my life, you know, presently I am in Minnesota. I'm in Minnesota. And Minnesota, even though I'm saying it's Minnesota, I want us to understand that Minnesota is the Mississippi of the North. And prior to being in Minnesota, I was living, you know, in Mississippi. I was down south, traveling all over the Underground Railroad of, you know, Black Power liberation and plugging with other, you know, Pan-Africanists and just where it's at, trying to build camaraderie, etc. But when I was in Mississippi, I did almost 10 years in the Mississippi Department of Incorrectness. Okay. And so really, you know, all my life coming up, I always heard people tell me that it's in me to be you know, a minister. My mom always told me that I'm to be a preacher. You know, I always was in like a leadership position or almost like a thought leader. You know, people that was around me will always seek my counsel, you know, or my advice, you know, etc. But you know, I really just started but when I was in prison, of course, you got nothing but time when you was in prison. But even prior to prison, I was grinding, you know, in my studies, you know, reading and things like that. But I continued that definitely with just a real vigor, you know, when I was in there. And that's just what it is, you know, coming up inside of that you know, what we call university. Okay, when I was in there. And when I was in there, when I was incarcerated, I wasn't playing games when I was in there. You know, I rode with a group of very knowledgeable brothers, very strong warrior brothers that was practicing the Deen al-Islam. You know, these were Muslim brothers, and I would describe these Muslim brothers. If anybody seen the movie South Central before, we Black, I know we done seen South Central 1,000 times. Okay. But the brothers that I was in prison with was like them brothers that was in there that told them, you gonna give this brother, you know, you ain't getting a man dessert. You know what I'm saying? So them the type of brothers I was in there with, surrounding myself with. And I practiced Islam for almost half of my life, you know, in prison and even outside of prison. When I was in prison, I was a emir. You know, I operated as an emir and an imam. So it's just only natural for me being in you know, doing what it is that I do, you know. And so we still there, family?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay. Yeah, that's the writing process though for me though. And I really want to share that though. The writing process for me is I call it transcribing. And I don't write until it's time for me to write. So I don't deal with no writer's block. I don't believe in the writer's block, you know.
Okay, I see you was dealing with Now Valley meditation. comedic yoga, things like that. How did you get involved in that? And, how has that helped you in your process? You see what I'm saying? Along the way.
The comedic yoga and yoga period definitely was, yoga is revolutionary. Often we hear the words revolution, we hear it all the time, revolution. But when dealing with revolution, revolution is based on the involution, and the involution is, just doing that real personal work, internally, and so the yoga, and especially the comedic yoga, with my life always being about connecting the dots and feeling and knowing that our healing is in the embrace of our ancient healing modalities. When I started doing the yoga, the stretching, the breathing, meditating, and really working with my spiritual muscles and my mind, it really helped build the focus, the concentration, and played a big role in just the self-mastery and the necessary discipline to be strong, to ground myself, and tap in. The important thing about yoga is not the physical postures or the asanas that we doing. Everything, all physical exercises that anybody does, especially with dealing with yoga, the physical postures is only a tool. It's only a tool to shape and forge the mind and the will. So that's one of the things I really love about yoga, and why I do it, because the medium is the breath. The breath is the medium. The breath is the medium, and we can only go as far as our breath. We can only go as far as our breath. We can only go as far as, our spirit. So I view all these different practices and modalities as nourishment, as feeding, as strengthening, as fortifying, because the breath is the medium. And not only when I say the breath is the medium, what I'm saying is you can only go as far as your breath. You can only go as far as your spirit takes you, making reference to longevity, making reference to stamina, making reference to even knowing yourself. It's the breath. The breath is the medium to the mind. The breath is the medium to whatever information you wanna obtain and is trying to assess, And so just honoring the brain and the mind connection in relation to the breath, is what really what I love about yoga. It's the great means of knowing yourself, becoming familiar with yourself, really seeing, what is in you, and then with yoga, it is physical, but it's more mental than anything, because it forces you, in order for you to really optimize your being and get the greatest benefits out of it. You can't move when you want to move. You can, but then you'll be out of sync or misaligned. Yoga conditions you to wait on spirit. Yoga conditions you to listen to yourself. Yoga conditions you to identify your voice of intuition. Yoga conditions you to be able to hear clearly and tune in to the voice, of the ancestors in that ancestral realm, because the breath is the medium. It's the medium. And you can't, and there's no way around it. But in yoga, you have to move with the breath. In order to get the most out of it, you have to move on cue and in sync with the breath. So I do yoga primarily because of the mastery of the mind, the pointed focus, concentration, that it builds. And just as dealing with prayer, as dealing with yoga, your prayer or your yoga, it doesn't begin until you get off the mat. This is when it begins. It begins when you get off the mat, not when you're on it, when you get off the mat. So the yoga is just a perfect medium for the means of self-mastery, the means of developing the continued consciousness and the unbroken meditation, because our life is supposed to be a meditation. The state of consciousness is supposed to be constant and incessant. So that's some of the reasons why I love yoga, because it really emphasizes and just illustration shows how much the power is in the memory. The power is solely in the memory. And with the breath being the medium, when that breath, that spirit, that ashe, and that sakim is moving through your body and going into those tight spaces and places, this is when it is activating the memory. It is activating the memory through the breath.
So you was dealing with Al-Islam, and when did you make the transition into coming back into Nile Valley culture? What was it about the Nile Valley that attracted you?
Man, I would say dealing with Al-Islam and me coming full home. And so in my book, The Holy Black Papyrus, it has a 2-part autobiography, or biography rather, in The Holy Black Papyrus, and I go over that. But doing so right now, I would say probably around like 2015, 2016. But what really allowed me to come home, and when I say home, I'm talking fully, to Africa, unadulterated, not dealing with, religion, so to say, just coming strictly home to Africa and dealing purely with a prototype, with just my continued study. As I continue to study, for myself, making connections and seeing more clearly, and especially studying with the aspect of putting things on a timeline chronologically, that created a road for me to really see and say, it's time for me just to deal with the prototype and not the replica and not the plagiarization of what I identified as a plagiarization of African stories and the regurgitation of them. Through my studies, I've seen that pretty much, it's the Nilotic, the Nile Valley civilization, from which that I would define as the womb. But as I continue to study, and when we being a lover of words and looking at the roots and getting into the etymology, one thing that had really just stuck out to me as I was making these connections is that just about all of the words in the Arabic, and I could read the Arabic, I read the Quran in the Arabic. You know, I could read the Arabic very easy to learn. 28 letters, 29 if you count the Hamza. Okay, I taught myself Arabic in 2 weeks. But as I continue just to read the Quran and reading the Arabic and breaking down, you know, root words and stuff like that, the vast majority of the words in the Arabic have the same meaning as the Neteru, as the Kemetic words dealing with what the misnomer hieroglyphs, you know, dealing with the sacred language, the sacred speech, the sacred word. You know, it means the same thing. When you look in the Neteru, we have the word hasib. Hasib means to compute. It means to reckon. You know, it means to consider. Then we come over to the 99 attributes of Allah. You know, we have al-hasib, which means the one who considers, the one who weighs. So when I just started seeing all of these different, you know, connections, and when I started, you know, just putting things on a timeline chronologically, I just said, I just need to come on home fully and deal with it. And another thing, the big thing, one of the bigger things that really was just real conspicuous to me, because as Africans, we are originally matrilineal. We deal with the matriarchy. We are matriarchal base. And various different scholars, especially in the books of Sheikh Anta Diop, like African civilization and barbarism, and even dealing with Dr. John Henry Clark, our scholars illustrate that at one point in Africa, the only people that owned land, the sole landowners, was the women. The women was the landowners. And in order to be take your place on this throne or this seat, you know, the bloodline had to be pure, and you had to come through that Black woman. So being matrilineal, being matriarchal, I plainly seen it in the Quran, just like the Holy Bible. It is patriarchy. These books and religions are patriarchal books. And so I really wasn't, you know, the patriarchy thing, wasn't feeling it. And also just distinctions in the view and the treatment of the woman as well. But the patriarchy, you know, it not being matrilineal and other things that I identified chronologically, I just need to come home 100% to the prototype and tap in fully to what it is our ancestors was doing and was utilizing, and what before the encounter and disruption, you know, with the Europeans and other, you know, Arab invaders.
So let's kind of fast forward now. With this RBG community, you know, we've been around for some time now. We got to cultivate it. Like you said, you was on Underground Railroad. Kind of give us an assessment in your walk, you know, where we are as a community before we, you know, segue into Thursday's events.
Oh, man. Where we are today. It's fourth quarter. It's fourth quarter. That's where we are today. It's the fourth quarter. And the way I feel about it is it's definitely the fourth quarter, man. And and to put, you know what I'm saying, our plight and our struggle in comparison to a goddamn football game. I was going to say this. It's the fourth quarter for the Holy Black family. Right now, in light of the present zeitgeist and the spirit of the day and the time, that which is looming over us and that which is possibly impending, it's the fourth quarter. But I don't totally feel that it is a loss. I would never feel that it is a loss with me being a warrior and committed, you know, as I am, you know, to ushering in victory, you know. But it's the fourth quarter, and we do have good ground and a good position to goddamn it punch the ball home across the line. And so what I'm saying is, imagine this gridiron game football and the Holy Black family, we on the 2-yard line, 1-yard line, we close. We close. And I want to explain it like this. And I explain it as the fourth quarter because yet at the same time, the present moment in time that we have and have been given from the ancestors, if this time is not utilized properly and squandered, then, you know, we can be doomed. This time period that we're in right now, despite all of the so-called darkness or things that people may consider to be negative or, you know, positive or good, bad, negative, positive, light, dark, whatever. This right now, this time period that we is in right now, this pandemic, COVID, everything else that we're in right now, this is none other than a gift from the universe and the ancestors to the Black man and the Black woman. Okay, the present time period that we is in right now is there never has ever been a greater golden age ever known to man than the age that we is in today. And the reason why I say it, there's no greater golden age ever known to man than the golden age of today is because information has never been so prolific. It's never been so teeming. It's never been so prevalent. It's never been so available. It's never been so accessible ever. Never been a time period ever when information has been so prolific and accessible as it is today. Okay, even the goddamn European himself has dubbed this period the information age. Right? So when we go back into history, even just picking on the Bible for a moment, and not in a negative way, but just to drill this point home, the Bible did not go to the press or to the Gutenberg press until the 15th century. That's the 1400s. And I think it was specifically 1485. Doesn't even matter. I just say the 15th century, didn't go to the Gutenberg press. So prior to these periods, we know that those who primarily and chiefly had access to the knowledge was the nobility, was the royal family, right? Was the priest, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Knowledge was not flowing freely and prolific as it is today. But dealing with this time period it was in, this is a gift from my ancestors, this time period it was in. We have never had a greater moment of time period given to us for us to get free, for us to change the dynamic of the relationship. Okay, prior to this pandemic, right? Whatever this they want to call this present time period that we is in, our ancestors never got off a day of work. During slavery, the only time they got off of work was holidays or holidays. post so-called slavery with the Emancipation Proclamation, still transitioning into the manufactured false world that they created for us to abide in, still going to these plantations and dealing with the word plantation. Plantation is the 9 to 5. That's what I call the job, plantation. And by dealing with these plantations and even going back to slavery, we have to know and understand that those who caught the captives to make them slaves was called factors. The slave hand who caught the captive to make our ancestor a slave was called a factor. And today, most of us is caught up where? Working in factories. And you go into many of these factories, they resemble and look just like a prison. Okay? So, and even today, most of us, the only time we get off work, right? Get off from the plantation is the holiday or the holiday. So prior to this COVID thing or the pandemic, we ain't never had a day off as the people. As descendants of slaves, we ain't never had a day off. We ain't never had a day off. So this is why I say the universe is conspiring. This is a gift from the ancestors in the universe for the Black man's liberation and his goddamn real emancipation. Okay, the word emancipate only comes from the Latin word emancipare, which means to free from the hand. So this is the time where we have been given the proper weapon and tool to cut the goddamn hand off and really get liberated. We have never had a time off in our life, but now we have it. Because it's all about ma'at. It's about balance. It's about correction. This is a real purge. This is our time right here. And so this is how I feel about it. And so wrapping it up, looking at the present day and time, because these people base everything that they do always in business with doing more for less. It's all about doing more for less. And so our people, presently, we is in a situation of the 60s and the 70s when the European and the white man came through with that axe, right? And shut down all those factories in the Midwest, in Pittsburgh, and every place else. We still in that same position today because we have not changed the dynamic of the relationship. The dynamic of the relationship, we have not changed it. And so this is just what it's about, changing the dynamic of the relationship. And we still in the same position as we was yesterday, today. And they base everything they do with doing more for less. And during this time period, these wise, wicked scientists and devils, these Europeans, they have discovered that they could do even more for less. So as we so-called transition out of this so-called phase that they have manufactured, a lot of the jobs and things that our people do is going to be no longer. They are set to be wiped out and eliminated because they got this new model that they gonna run it, work from home. A lot of things is gonna be continuously just be work from home, and the job forces are gonna be downsized and reduced because they have discovered that they could do more for less. So many of these businesses, they not feeling, they making more money than they ever did, more wealth than they ever have amassed ever. We're doing more for less, and these businesses, a lot of them are still successful. And so they're going to keep this model up. And so with the conditioning of our people, a lot of us, even adults, still is not reading on the 3rd grade level. So when we compound these different illiteracies with the financial illiteracy, And then a lot of us, even with the technological illiteracy, not going to be able to cross over and maintain and exist in these work from home positions. You see, so when they come with this act, it's going to decimate us and hurt the Holy Black family very bad. This time period, like I said, we could win it, but we really have to be on the ball, strategizing, thinking, planning like hell. We can't be wasting time, because this time period, it could go any way, and it's entirely up to us which way that it goes. And I want to quote one of my favorite people and warrior scholars. You know, we just don't want to honor people when they become an ancestor, but M. Walimu Bomani Baruti, in his book Asafo, he says that the measure of African man, right, has to be assessed in the face of power and in the interest of other men, and it's based on our successfulness and our ability to defend and put forth selflessly the interest of the community in times of war. You see, and we haven't changed the dynamic of the relationship, and with the stage of the game that they is in right now, with white supremacy and systemic white supremacy, right? With the stage of the phase, we cannot exist one more day. We can't go another 5 years. We can't go another 1 year subsisting and existing the way that we are and living as a people and think that we can survive. We can't wipe the slate clean and forgive the Europeans for what it is that they is doing, have done, and continue to do without them feeling no contrition in heart. They ain't repented, they ain't apologized for nothing. So as the people right now, the Civil War have never ended. It never ended, but man, our people, we cannot dust ourselves off and forgive everything and proceed as if we is really going to fight another civil rights movement. It's not going to happen. We cannot fight another civil rights movement. So it's grave and good for us, but we have to play the situation right. We got to get up our mettle. We got to get up our courage. We got to get up our will. We got to get up our spirit. This is why I'm speaking about the yoga and the spirit, the breath being a medium. Got to tap in to your ancestors, okay? You should have your altar. This is foremost in warfare. You need to have your altar. You need to be feeding spirit on all levels. This is a good period and it's a bad period, but we have to play it right. It's the fourth quarter.
So talk to us about Thursday. Let us know what's going down, where we can tune in, and how to get this divine ancestral message.
Thursday, I am doing the presentation, and not any kind of presentation. This is a presentation in a case of liberation. And I want to say plainly that liberation is not a debate. Okay. And one of my things that I always say is that liberation is more than an aspiration, it's destiny. June 17th, Black Lives Don't Matter, the Hannibal Perspective, 5:00 p.m. Central Time. It will be streamed, live streamed on my Facebook channel. Floyd Williams is my name. It would be streamed on my YouTube channel. Floyd Williams, once again, is the name. for the YouTube page. Okay, and it's gonna be live stream on Hustle Big Network. But Black Lives Don't Matter, the Hannibal perspective is designed for nothing but liberation and for our healing, and as well as to highlight my father. I call Hannibal Bakra my Baba. Going to highlight his life, going to share a lot of knowledge and information about him. It's important and key that we know Hannibal Bakra, that we know of this time period or phase in our struggle of liberation coming out of Carthage, dealing with the Carthaginians. And I'm going to combine it to today live current events. So it's going to be a good mixture of going over the history of Carthage, Hannibal Barca, current events, and our and covering our struggle, you know, as a people for liberation, and venerating the ancestors. Okay, so this is what it is. Black Lives Don't Matter, the Hannibal perspective, because a lot of us, brother, knowledge born in law, this fight for liberation is way older than what many of us say, and it's way older than what many of us you know, think it to be, you know. So that's why I say we can't, how we are today subsisting and living and existing as a people, it's intolerable, it's not acceptable, it's not logical, and it's not excusable. And it's the fourth quarter, and it's time to punch the ball home, because this goddamn fight and struggle that we have been engaging in is 2,000 years old. 2,000 years old, coming from the time period that I'm going to build from, dealing with what they love to call the Punic Wars. We dealing with a time period of 2,000 years. We've been trying to stay liberated, be liberated, get free, you know, and everything else. So this is why Black Lives Don't Matter, the Hannibal perspective, you want to tune in, and it's key, because these Europeans, they love Hannibal. They love Hannibal. And too many of our people don't even know nothing about Hannibal. When they hear Hannibal, they think about goddamn Hannibal Lecter or Silence of the Lambs or something. But you know, it's this one book called Hannibal in the Alps by Stephen de Beer. And in the introduction of that book, he's in the hospital being treated for illness. But in the book, the nurse asks him, "What is this book right here?" He said, "Oh, this is Hannibal." He say Hannibal is and was the greatest general and military strategist and tactician to live. And he said, whenever I'm down or in the hospital, I keep a book of Hannibal at my side. So how much more can our story and the knowledge of our warriors help us, heal us, aid us, enrich us, fortify us, and condition us? It's going to do way more, because the greatness and the history is encoded in our DNA. in hours. It's our medicine. This is our healing. It's just what it is. And we have to, and Black Lives Don't Matter, the Hannibal perspective is all about cultivating that militancy and vigilance. The militancy and vigilance toward victory, towards survival, and enhancing the chances of survival, and thus properly identifying and not being confused about who the arch adversary and who the arch enemy is, or like they say in the Quran, avowed enemy is. Avowed. Avowed means sworn. Vowed and avowed is different. Just like in history, you have avowed segregationists. You got segregationists and you got avowed segregationists. Okay? The avowed segregation is, goddamn it, it's over my life. It's over my blood that you gonna rise and come up. So we can't have no confusion on what it is we dealing with, the time, and what it is. So this is about focus. This is about winning. We got to get rid of all confusion of what it is that we dealing with, and quit undoing things and making the white man. When I say making the white man, I'm talking about making excuses for this man. When we make an excuse or a reasoning for this person or man, we is making him. We is making him, and that causes you to change in your consciousness and to make missteps. We cannot continuously suffer and lose from the misplacing of trust and the making of this white man by trying to decide who is good, who is bad. You know, they are not the same. The white man is the devil. Period. This is what our ancestors taught us. This is what they said. This is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. We can't be confused on these things. Okay, Chancellor Williams, Destruction of Black Civilization, shared with us the prophecy of the Messiah, or the Masi, that said when a white man appear or come, and you embrace him, you let him in, it's over with. It's done. You can't have no confusion. And then also, Harriet Ann Jacobs, another ancestor that I love dearly, Harriet Ann Jacobs. When I learned of Harriet Ann Jacobs, I vowed to her that I was going to make the world know her name, Harriet Ann Jacobs. But she has a saying of hers that says, I would rather 10,000 times my children be paupers of Ireland than be the most pampered among slaves of America. And Harriet Ann Jacobs didn't realize she was a slave until she was 6 years old. Harriet Ann Jacobs didn't realize she was a slave until she was 6 years old, and she came up right in the midst of slavery in real time. And didn't realize she was a slave until she was 6 years old. Let's look at Harriet Tubman. I free hundreds. I could have freed thousands if they knew they were slaves. So imagine how many of us today is blind and lost at this illusion of inclusion, because we have way more physical, so-called physical freedom than our ancestors had or dreamt of. But nothing has changed but the terrain or the landscape. But the spirit and the aim with the European has never changed. has always remained the same. So imagine her coming up in a time period as a slave, not realizing she was a slave till she was 6 years old. So you could see when you compare that present to this present, how deep a person could be asleep or in the dark, not knowing their true position in their life. So this is all about vision and clarity, and the fruition of the vision of the ancestors. We have to get it, and we can't live and endure the same Holocaust or Holocaust that our ancestors did. We can't endure it. We can't live it. We can't live it. I'm not gonna live it. I'm not. It's a wrap. Can't live it. We can't live it. And as much as I speak about the ancestors, and all of us do, we know that the goal for our ancestors, they want us to be better than them, to be better. If we is building on our ancestors, and it's through them that we come, and it's they spirit, we supposed to be stronger. This shit's supposed to be over with. Supposed to be over with a long time ago. It's time to change the dynamic of the relationship. And there's no excuse. And we can't go. It got to change right now. But we got to remain focused. It's on us. It's on us. We have to punch the ball home. We got to stop saying stuff like the ancestors died for the right to vote, because that's a damn lie. The ancestors that I worship and call upon, like Bookman, Toussaint Overture, Yaya Santiwa, Queen Ravanola, Harriet Ann Jacobs, okay, Nat Turner, Gabrielle Prosser, Denmark Vesey, Reverend Moses Dixon Jr., okay, the names that I call upon that was breaking up and crushing glass and putting it in the slave master food and drink would never get caught standing in a goddamn voting line to cast a ballot. It's on us. We got to remain focused on the vision of the ancestors and what it is that they truly fought for, which was autonomy, liberation, the return to African glory prior to the encounter of the European and the disruption of our life and our culture, period. Everything else is uncivilized. And the only thing fit for a king or a queen is a throne. You can't, it's no comfortability outside of that. And as soon as we flip the script and get control, things will be better for everybody. Because right now the home is being ran and controlled by children and not the parents. When the children is running the house versus the parents, you have what you have. You have what you have, which is what it is that we is presently enduring, which is a psychogenetic war that is totally based on extermination. And this is why the warfare is existential. This is existential warfare. This is for our existence.
So y'all heard it, family. Thursday, let me put the flyer up there one more time. Y'all been tuning in. Y'all been seeing what's going on. It's going down Thursday. Ancestral message. Black lives don't matter. The Hannibal perspective. Our brother, saved by
Hannibal
Floyd Williams.
artist.
Got it. Now or never. Live stream. On this live stream. Floyd Williams. Floyd Williams on YouTube and Facebook. 5 p.m. Central. Existential War. So as we close, brother, you got any final remarks, acknowledgments, shout outs, anything like that? People want to get with you, they want to support you, collab with you. You know, you got the floor.
Only thing I gotta say, you know what? I'm gonna close out with this, cause then I ain't got anything else to say, really. I appreciate you, Knowledge Born Allah, creating a platform, having a platform. You know, I really just want to tell you, you know, while I'm looking at you, you know, that I love you, I appreciate you, you know what I'm saying? I hold you in a high esteem, because you also was doing the most important work of a sesh, of a scribe, archiving our story, you know, telling, you know, our story, you know, and you do it in a very, you know, pure, you know, and righteous manner that I really love and respect. You doing it on the strength. You doing it on your strength. You doing it on your own. And so that right there speaks volume as to your will, you know, and your heart for the people. So, and outside of that, if I didn't view you as such, I wouldn't even be on Do the Knowledge Radio. So I want that to be, you know, I really want to firmly, you know, convey that, you know what I'm saying, and say that to you. As much respect over here, you know. But just dealing with everybody else, tune into the Black Lives Don't Matter, the Hannibal perspective. I'm just going to close out with the African pledge. The African pledge is something that you should, as Africans, you know, I wholeheartedly believe that you should recite it every day. The African pledge should be recited every single day. So I'm just going to close out, you know, emphasizing focus, emphasizing concentration, emphasizing energy follows thought. Okay. With the African pledge, we will remember the humanity, glory, and suffering of our ancestors. We will honor the struggle of our elders. We'll strive to bring new value and new life to our people. We'll have peace and harmony among us. We will work, study, and listen so that we will learn so that we may teach. We'll cultivate self-reliance and struggle to resurrect and unify our homeland. We have many children for our nation. We exercise patience, devotion, and courage. We'll live as models to provide new direction for our people. We are Africans and self-determined. We will win. We will win. We will win. That's all I got to say. Black Lives Don't Matter, the Hannibal perspective. Tune in. Now know this is the last chance. That's all I want the people to do, is tap in.
All right, family. Be out, man. Appreciate you, Sabar, coming through, making it plain.
Black Power family, headed poo. Biba for whole day. Uhuru, free the land.
So my homie called me and say, Ty, I know you down there with all that foolishness going on. What the deal is? What you got to say about all that? I said, I've been saying the same thing since the late 80s, early 90s, all the way to now. You know, as far as Africans, where Garvey went wrong at, y'all, where his plan was wrong at. you know. But as far as me and my family, they ain't touching us.
Roosters in the front, check. Goats in the back, check. Shrines on point, my crew is on track.
Okay.
A Joshe on my chest, my nation repack. And cracker tried, I lay 'em off flat. I say roosters in the front, check. Goats in the back, check. Shrines on point, my crew is on track.
Okay.
A Joshe on my chest, my nation repack. And cracker tried, I lay 'em off flat. Hey.
G-O-D, emotions is stable. My DNA derived from the cradle. Got proof, no spoof, flukes or fables told. I hold rank, invaders I disable. Soon as my meds drop, heads rock. Go against my grain, buddy, you bet not. Behold, the grand wizard of the wizardry had them where they was kissing me once, now they dissing me.
Really?
Once, I would've went haywire. St. Elmo's firing on the entire crew for everything they do. Prior to the present mindset I acquired, way higher. Now I know better, so I grow better and do better. Whether endeavors are beneficial or not, turn ills to new hot records. Hold up, y'all must have forgot. Give me a second, y'all.
Roosters in the front, check. Goats in the back, check. Shrines on point, my crew is on track.
Okay.
A Joshe on my chest, my nation repack. And cracker tried, I lay 'em off flat. I say roosters in the front, check. Goats in the back, check. Shrines on point, my crew is on track.
Okay.
A Joshe on my chest, my nation repack. And cracker tried, I lay 'em off flat. Hey.
The Lord of the Lords used to ball till I fall. Then I pause for the cause and about face. Kept it raw to the core, then they jaws hit the floor when they saw what I brought to the black race. We ain't black, it ain't a race, okay. I'm gonna pay for English language debates, trying to communicate. They court rumors like monosodium glutamate. I discarded, cracker laws is garbage.
Remember that.
All my shrines stay fed, homie, I'm too devout. Confident with the force, so I be cooling out. Soon as the pigs step up running they doodle mouth, I hold my nose while my ancestors shoot it out. Yep, and bang bang on the cracker gang. We the top shotter like Khufu. Let them hang juju. It ain't a thing, you rolling with the all-knowing. So pardon me for all the showboating. I got
roosters in the front, check. Goats in the back, check. Shrines on point, my crew is on track.
Okay.
A Joshe on my chest, my nation repack. And cracker tried, I lay 'em off flat. I say roosters in the front, check. Goats in the back, check. Shrines on point, my crew is on track.
Okay.
A Joshe on my chest, my nation repack. And cracker tried, I lay 'em off flat. Hey.
Yeah. Now we gonna tell them that in front. We tell them like this, yo. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm a African. I'm a African. Yeah, y'all like that? No more. This man's mind is open. I'm a African. I'm a African. I'm a African. I'm a. Let's get
And
back
that
to
motive
the
is best developed by recognizing the common enemy.